Hey guys, it's Ericzo here, and welcome to my Killer, the Wraith guide on Dead by Daylight Mobile. In this video, I will be explaining the skills, the add-ons, showing my gameplay using the add-ons, and the alternative add-ons you can use on the Wraith. Skill explanation. In a nutshell, the Wraith skill is to pretty much go invisible. However, the catch is you do not, and I repeat, do not go full invisible. You go into this transparency mode instead by cloak, which makes it harder for the survivor to see, especially from far away. However, you are not fully invisible, so we should keep this in mind later because we will return it to it. You start the game cloak, meaning you start in your transparency mode. You can go hunt people right away, pretty much. After you uncloak, you actually gain a burst of speed which you can use while hitting survivor to hit the survivor if they are not too far away from you. If you do it correctly, you will. It will seem like the Wraith literally leap on the survivor while getting a free hit. This is really useful. And as I mentioned earlier, since you do not go in full invisible, you should use the incredible speed and transparency of the Wraith to uncloak from a deadly angle. Deadly angle usually includes behind a wall, at the corner where survivor will turn, in front of a pallet to block survivor from using it, or just simply blocking and restricting the path for the survivor to run. A good Wraith would always position the Wraith to force survivor into this stage. Stage 1 usually means where the pallet is already used or where there's not much pallet. If you can drive survivor to day zone and you run faster than the survivor, there's a high chance that you can just run in a straight line and hit them and pretty much down the survivor. Add-on explanation. To start off, the Coxcomb Clapper is an ultra-rare add-on which makes the bell on the wrap silent. This means that while both cloaking and uncloaking, your belt do not make any sound like it does normally whatsoever. This is extremely useful as you can be extremely close to a survivor while cloaking and they may not even notice you. A fun thing to do with the silent bell is to literally sneak up behind a survivor doing any generator and just grab them off the gens. This means that you can punish and insta-down people who do not pay attention while doing the generator. The second add-on is Windstorm Blood, a really rare add-on. What this add-on does is that it increases the Wraith movement speed by a lot while cloak. While cloak, I repeat. How I really like to use this add-on is to be cloak, then hit a survivor. This would mean that I would be cloaked by a survivor and cloak myself and then hit the survivor. After a survivor is hit, survivor will gain a short burst of movement speed. Most of them will use this burst of movement speed to get out of the killer site or onto the next loop or pallet. If I have this add-on, I will usually cloak myself right after hitting the survivor and just run after the survivor as soon as possible. The movement speed this add-on provides makes the Wraith so fast and swift that you can literally be right next or ahead of the survivor again after a few seconds of chasing them. I will usually uncloak myself as I arrive to the window or pallet at the same time or slightly before the survivor. So this would mean that I would arrive to the window, perhaps block the window, they have to change their routes. By the time I uncloak, I would be able to hit them and down them for free. Of course, there's also the downside to this add-on. The downside of this add-on is that your movement speed slightly decreases while uncloaking. If you don't know, you can actually move while uncloaking. And if you use this add-on, you will barely move while you're uncloaking. This means that you have to really position yourself really well, right? This sometimes when I play, this is a problem because if you do not position yourself ahead or next to the survivor, you won't be able to get an easy hit on them and you will just end up chasing the survivor again. Easy thing to do is to predict where the survivor will go, uncloak, and just surprise them. To predict where the survivor will go will come down to your game experience, obviously. Tips that I actually learn and give to a lot of the newer player who are my friend is to just observe how survivor behave during the start of the game. For example, if you see a mech, this mech like to waste the pallet, she loves to put the pallet down. You know that if she get hit by you and she get that burst of movement speed, there's a really high probability that she will run to the next closest pallet. So you can just predict that, go to the pallet, wait for her while uncloaking, she arrives and you get a free down on her. Funny thing is, I actually forgot to record the section about the perk after I finished recording the whole thing, so if it seems out of tune from the rest of the video, it's because I record afterward. So let's begin talking about the quirk that I use, right? So to start off, the first quirk that I use is Corrupt Intervention. This perk is really powerful because you literally block the 3 generator furthest away from you. This means you don't have to waste time to walk to the furthest side of the map. Especially with a big map, this quirk is really powerful. On a small map, it's still powerful. This is the plague quirk, and I think that if you don't have the plague and you don't have corrupted intervention as a learnable perk, using Determiner is also good. Using similar perks to just disrupt and permanent this. I personally don't think there's anything that can replace corrupted intervention because there is no perk like this perk. And also, I hate it really much when survivor is spawned in the further side of the map. There's 3 people there, and then they gen rush, and then you don't even get to the generator, and it's already done. I hate that feeling. So corrupted intervention really prevents that. If you're a killer and this always happened to you, please use corrupted intervention. Buy the plague. Trust me, this quirk you will not regret buying it. The next quirk I use is actually Discordance. Discordance is the Legion perk, and anytime 2 or more survivors working on a generator, the generator pretty much will give you a notification, and you will know. And the generator will turn yellow pretty much. The reason I use this quirk and think it's actually really strong is because, like I told you earlier, this quirk can really prevent gen rushing. Like, for example, when corrupted intervention activate, right? There's not too many generator for me to look around, and if I see suddenly a generator turn yellow, I know that somebody's there. This quirk can be used during the early game, the mid game, the late game. It's always so useful, especially if you have the 3 gen left, and you know 2 of them are rushing. You can literally know if they are rushing the gen or not. Of course, this quirk is used if they don't work on the gen together, but usually there are always moments where 2 survivors are working on a gen together, especially with the divide proof thyself quirk. Is this one. This quirk is really strong to just get the generator done really quick. So obviously, Discordant prevents this type of helping doing the generator fast to work. Even sometimes when I hang a survivor and I see Discordant on, I know that at least 2 of them is working on a gen. Perhaps 1 is around here. This is when arguably one of the strongest quirk in the game comes into play: barbecue and chili. This quirk is the Chainsaw Massacre Cabinal quirk. He's not on mobile yet. He's only on PC, console, and those stuff. What this quirk does is basically it tells you if there are survivors. It gives you aura of the survivor if there are more than 40 meters away from the hook. So, for example, the example I give I have given with the Discordant, right? If you hang a survivor, there's 3 left on the map. If you see 2 of them working on a gen, and then barbecue and chili activate because you hang someone, you can see if the 3rd person is far away or close. If their aura is far away, you know that there's nobody around you, and you can just you can just hunt them pretty much. If barbecue and chili activates and you don't see the 3rd person, there's a high chance this 3rd person is close by and trying to do a fast rescue hook. You can literally mind game and predict this sort of thing just from having this quirk. On top of that, each time a survivor is hooked for the 3rd time, you gain a 25 stack bonus to all blood point gain. Of course, this is only rewarded in terms of blood point after the game. However, it just helps you grind the game so much quicker. This quirk is so strong, and there's no reason to run it, especially since it's free and any killer can get it. Everybody should be using this quirk on all the killer. Sloppy Busher. Sloppy Busher is one of those free perks that many people look over, especially newer player, but it's actually one of the strongest perk in the game. Pretty much, it just makes them heal like slower. Everything about it is this quirk is to buy time pretty much. There are so many moments where you get a hit on the survivor, but then they just run away because there's 3 around you. You can't really hit all of them twice, right? If you hit one and they run and they run to their friend and heal, at least you buy more time because they have to spend more time healing, spend more time running. This quirk just makes sense to buy time. It's one of those really good perks that is free. So if you're looking for a perk that is both free And useful sloppy butcher is one of them. Of course, you can't really use on all killers. For example, when I play Billy, I rarely hit Survivor. I always try to use my chainsaw. So this perk is not exactly useful because chainsaw can insta-down people. However, on a killer like Wraith, where you pretty much only auto-attack, it's a really strong perk, and that's why I bring it with me. Alternative add-on. So the first add-on on this alternative list is Blown Clapper. This is the only add-on which can replace the Cox Bomb Clapper, which is the one that makes your bell go invisible. What this add-on does is basically creating this fake bell sound for the survivor to hear. The fake bell sound distance and direction will be changed, which most of the time can trick the survivor to panic running or not even noticing you. Use this add-on similar to how you would use the coxcomb clapper. However, beware that even if the bell sound is distorted, the survivor can still hear you. Most of them would run away after hearing the bell, so beware of that. So unlike the cox bomb clapper where they can never hear your bell, sometimes even though the bell is far away, it's close, it would cause survivor to run. So maybe you should take that into your accountable when running this add-on. The second set of add-on are Swift Hunt, which in the rarity are Blood, White, and Mud, right? The really rare, the rare, and etc. This type of add-on reduces the reappearance time for the Wraith. This add-on is super underrated but works extremely well. So you can literally surprise greedy survivor or just I guess survivors that don't really pay attention by uncloaking faster for a second or two. The downside to using this add-on is that, well, you do not gain the increased movement speed unlike Windstorm, the one that I used earlier in the video. However, the best stat for moving on the Wraith while cloak is already fast, and running Swift Hunt to uncloak yourself faster is totally justifiable. I understand that that sometimes Swift Hunt is good, sometimes Windstorm is always good. It just depends on which one you prefer, honestly. The last set of add-on is, well, Windstorm again, but in lower rarity. You can use any rarity of Swift Hunt and also Windstorm because they pretty much do the same thing, right? The only difference of using the higher rarity is just that they are slightly faster or better for what they do. It is totally understandable to use the lower rarity one, especially since the blood market is still bought and only the trackers are the one available to be purchased, which sucks, honestly. Thank you guys for watching this video and to the end. I really appreciate you guys watching the video or even clicking on the video in the first place. I welcome all form of suggestion or recommendation for both my video and even my gameplay. The next video I plan on making is on the killer, the shape, or more famously known as Michael Myers. I would really appreciate it if you guys could leave this video a like and comments and even subscribe to this channel if you like my content. And I will make sure that next time the audio and the video and of course maybe my voice is less nervous. This is my first commentary video on Dead by Daylight Mobile, and I hope you guys could forgive me for some simple mistakes. And until next time, Ericzo out.